talk loud. Yeah. Thank you, Shweta. So when we talk about the origin of cinema, when we talk about the beginning, so on one hand, when I talk about technology, you might ask, "Ma'am, what are you talking about?" So this is basically, say, the invention of camera itself. I'm not going into the details, but followed by the sound came in. So that's another major technological evolution which is happening. Followed by the coming of color, right? And then obviously we are now into the digital landscape. So the entire technology kind of toppled and changed post the digitization phase. So that's kind of a timeline we can prepare in terms of the technology. But in terms of the language, in terms of cinema as a craft to develop, that has a timeline of its own. And often when we talk about history of cinema, we kind of forget about that timeline as well. So if you look at that timeline, actually cinema after a certain point of time takes two kind of broad, it takes two paths actually. What are these two paths? One is the actuality, right, which is the realist reality. And when I say realist reality, shooting or attempting to shoot something which is more real life like. Okay, so for example, if you are they aware of Lumiere Brothers films or any of this, Shraddha?
Yes, Ipsita.
Have they seen Lumiere Brothers films and
No, they have not. They have not yet seen. No.
Okay. So if we look at, I'll just show it to you. If we look at Lumiere Brothers films, so who were these brothers? These brothers were actually known as father of cinema because they are known as, so to say, invented cinema. It's a very wrong thing to say that somebody has invented cinema, as no one person has invented cinema, but we know how the books of, like, how the history books kind of work it out. So often in general knowledge quizzes and in the plain books, you will find that they are kind of attributed as the father of cinema, the inventors of cinema. So what these duo did, right, is that they kind of took their camera out. They obviously invented a camera, and then with that camera, they just took their camera out and they shot things which are real in front of them. Okay, they just shot. They did not, obviously at that point of time, their knowledge of cinema was very, very limited, and therefore kind of they didn't change the angles, they didn't kind of made the people enact in front of camera, so nothing of that sort happened. So the film I'm going to show you, which is workers coming out of the factory, and all of this is available in YouTube. Okay, I'll just send you the links. So this film is basically a set of workers, real workers, not like unreal workers. It's not a set. It's not something which is built. It is these people who are coming out of the factory are not actors. They're all real factory workers. And he just took his camera and he placed it in front of the gates and he shot these people coming out of the factory. Similarly, he shot in a railway station when a train was arriving. Similarly, he shot a cute family when they were sitting in their garden, right? So these are the kind of films which were shot by these brothers called Lumiere brothers. Okay, but however, and I'll show you right away one of these films. But what I will also show you is that on one hand, when they were shooting these very real, like now you might compare, ma'am, are these like documentaries? I will say yes. In that sense, they are documentaries. They might not be longer in length, right? And documentaries today are also a lot fictionalized, but they were shorter in length. But yes, they were documentaries in that sense because they were real. There was nothing which is enacted, right? So this actually Lumiere brothers, and there's a name to these. They're not called documentaries back then because the documentary term was itself not there, right? Cinema was just being invented, so to say. But the term which was there at that point of time is called actualities, right? So it's called Lumiere actualities. Actually, before going further, let's have a quick look at one of the films. Okay, so I'm going to show you workers coming out of the factory, and the entire lot is out there in YouTube. You just have to type Lumiere Brothers films, and just one second. you just have to type Lumiere Brothers Films, and yes. Is the screen visible? It's a YouTube screen.
Yes, yes, we can see. Yes,
Correct.
we can.
So as you can see, it has no sound. Obviously, the musical piece you are hearing is kind of added later by someone, but the original piece had no sound. The audio was not invented at that point of time. So as I said, these are real people simply coming out of the factory. Yes, I believe you get the point. Yes, let that go on. So I hope I'm also visible along with the presentation. Am I?
Yes, yes, you are. Yes,
Great,
absolutely.
great. So so these are called Lumiere actualities, right? Where Lumiere is kind of shooting real people and lifelike features. Now, post Lumiere, actually, what happens is a set of filmmakers start coming in. And who are these filmmakers? George Méliès is one of them, right? And then obviously the famous name, if you have heard his name, he's called D.W. Griffith, right? So we will watch something, or Edwin S. Potter, I'm forgetting him. So a series of filmmakers came into being, right? I'm so sorry, I'll stop this presentation. Yes. A series of people, a series of these filmmakers came into being. But what they did was they somehow said that fine. I mean, you can shoot real people, and you can keep your constant camera constant, and you can shoot whatever is going on in front of you. But why not deviate from there, right? And why not, deviate in the sense, just twist and turn the language of cinema. So they start questioning whether the language of cinema is all about, shooting the real. So whereas one set of filmmakers, like again, I'm taking some of the early names, F.W. Murnau and other people. F.W. Murnau is a famous documentary filmmaker, right? So whereas one set of filmmakers believe that course of action, right? Shoot real life don't have sets, don't have actors. Another set of filmmakers, what they said, that no, that's not the idea. The idea is that film is an art, right? Film is an art like any other is. So the idea of films, idea of movies is not just to represent reality. It's an artistic expression. I'm using the word artistic expression. Now, the moment you use the word artistic expression, actually the artist becomes most prominent, right? Who is the artist here? The author, the actor. The director. So it's basically the maker. I might use the word author, but when I say author of a film is basically the director, the filmmaker, basically. So the author gains prominence, right? When you take cinema away from reality, and especially that's most true in today's date in the digital scenario. But let's talk about the early days first, right? Before talking about the present scenario. So therefore, what Méliès did, again, I'm not going into details, but Méliès divided, what Lumiere was shooting one scenes, individual scenes, right? So Méliès shot individual scenes and then joined them together, right? But if I just Gallup Porter and some of the other people, what D.W. Griffith did was that he used close-ups in his shot. Simple example. He used close-up in his shots. The moment you're using close-up, what are you doing actually? When you are giving a close-up or when you are kind of not shooting in depth, and I'm coming to what you mean by that. But The moment you say, suppose let's talk about close-up only. The moment you are using a close-up, you are telling your people, as in the viewers, that look, you have to look here, right? You can't look anywhere else. Now, when you're doing that, who is the decision maker here? I as in the author, I as in the filmmaker. And thus, I am taking cinema away from reality. So by just using a simple close-up or by simply cutting into action, right, I am kind of evolving, and I, in the sense, when I use the word I, obviously I mean by those early filmmakers, they started, thinking about a different sort of language of cinema, a language which sort of took cinema away from reality, right? And obviously, D.W. Griffith, the very famous filmmaker, I'll show you a little clip from one of his films as well. So he is known for, sort of making many inventions, and I'm using the word invention, but these are not technological inventions. He did not make a single technological invention, but what he did is he invented a set of things in terms of language, right? What is the set of things? Whether it be the use of close-up, whether it be the use of intercuts, right? All of these things are kind of brought forward by this one filmmaker over the course of his career, where he makes now numerous films. So quickly, we'll now go on to, give me 1 second again, I'll play the I'm not playing one of the um, you know longer films of Griffith. And we'll not watch the entire film. We'll flip through while I'm kind of talking to you. But the idea is that you see that what do I mean basically when I talk about the language. Okay. Can you see the here? Can you see the page?
Yes, we can. We can.
Yeah. Okay. So who are these people? These are actors. These are not real people, okay? People are enacting. There's a storyline which is involved, right? There's a narrative which is involved. These people, the sets are built-in sets. They are not real, locations which are just shot merely for the sake of the film. So just these three small things which I just mentioned itself is basically the author becomes somehow suddenly very, very prominent in these films, right? And apart from that, if you watch the whole film, I can just share the link quickly in the chat box as well, so that you can later have a look. Remember the other previous one which I showed was, yes, I've put it in the chat box. The previous one which I showed you was a series of Lumiere Brothers films. Just type Lumiere Brothers in Google and you will kind of find all of these films. So these films, so basically the number of points which I mentioned is that you have a storyline, you have a narrative to the film. You're not just shooting actualities anymore, right? You have actors in the film. They are not real life characters, right? She's a very famous actor. Her name is Lillian Gish, right? The sets are all built-in sets. These are not realist, natural sets. You just don't take your camera and move around. If you look into the entire film, and particularly some of the later films of Griffith, right? This is one of the early films. It's a short film, but D.W. Griffith actually made full-length feature films also, right? So a film like Birth of a Nation, which is very famous, again available on YouTube. I will type the name for you. So when you look at these films, you will find that apart from all the enactment and all of that, he does make use of close-ups. He does cuts into action a lot of time. Obviously, sound comes much later. But in whichever way possible, he's trying to recreate something, right? And I'm using the word recreate, right? And this actually, then takes the form of two set of filmmakers. One set of filmmakers who wanted to recreate, and one set of filmmakers who wanted to shoot the real, right? Who at least, if not obviously, cinema developed its own language, editing came into being, and all of that. But as far as possible, to shoot life as it is, okay, life as it is. Okay? And later on, obviously, what I'm talking about is, if you have seen Bicycle Thieves, now you will tell me, one of the students, please, that when I talk about Bicycle Thief, what do you think? Which one? Is it the realist, path, or the other one? I'm not giving a name to the other one right now. I'll give it at the end. But the other one, where the author is prominent, where the idea is to not to represent but to recreate. Which one do you think Bicycle Thief is? I'll stop this presentation. Okay, very good. Yes, Vaishali, realistic. Vishika, realistic. Absolutely. Can somebody tell me a name of a film which is the other one, which I'm talking about, which is not realist? Neorealism. Absolutely correct. Realist, right? The idea of a film like Bicycle Thief, if you have read a little bit, and I can share some reading material with you, the idea of a film like Bicycle Thief was to replicate the real. So what the idea these filmmakers, the inherent motive they had, is they wanted to shoot the post-war situation in Italy. So Italy was going on through a very, very bad situation under Mussolini's regime and all of that, right? So they wanted to kind of just shoot what was going on, and therefore they wanted to bring about a change in society, right? And that's why it's called a new realist movement, because they wanted to bring a change. But in the process of doing that, they said that the filmmakers should be not involved in the process. Or if they are involved, they should be just minimally involved. The idea is to shoot the real, right? And therefore, in the film, Richie and Bruno are not actors. They are real people. In the sense, Richie and Bruno both are real workers. Richie is an actual bricklayer in real life. I'm using the word most because not all, but most of the houses, the sets which you see in Bicycle Thief are not recreated. They're real sets, right? The film itself belongs to a very, very banal narrative. It's a poor man lost his bicycle. If you've seen a film like Umberto D, which is another neo-realist film, it's a 90 minutes in an old man's life. So it's a very banal narrative. It's like, the camera just moves around. You see the takes, longer takes, right? If you notice that the takes are very, very long in Bicycle Thief, right? And therefore, the idea behind having these longer takes is also that the moment you cut into action, the moment you try and, kind of do a lot of cutting into a film, then you are kind of trying to establish the author. An author here is the filmmaker. Okay, so I think this much is clear that what I mean by the realist. So we spoke about Lumiere brothers, some of the early realist kind of filmmakers. We spoke about some of the documentary filmmakers, F.W. Murnau and all of them. Then we spoke about neorealism. Obviously, neorealism is known as one of the greatest realist movements. It's like, many filmmakers actually made realist films in terms of the subject, in terms of the subject itself. So even you see an Indian filmmaker like Mrinal Sen makes a lot of films which are about taboo subjects, which kind of uphold the realist situation, the socio-economical situation. But if we're talking about the style itself, right, not about the subject, but if you talk about the style, very few filmmakers and very few film movements actually follow the realist style, and therefore neorealism is one of them. Obviously, whether it be not cutting into action, whether it be shooting in depth. Okay, I'll just elaborate a little bit, and we'll just see a small clip of neorealism, right? You might think that, ma'am, but your class was on mise en scène and you're talking so much about realism. The idea is, remember, I have kept the other path, right? Somewhere I've told you I'm coming to that. That other path is actually all about mise-en-scène, right? So I'm coming to that. Before that, you try and comprehend and ask me questions about this direction of cinema, which also cinema took, which we are talking about right now. So I'm going to show you a small clip from a neorealist film, and since you have already seen Bicycle Thief at length, this is a particular film called Umberto D, right? And it's a very famous sequence from Umberto D, where there's a poor maid, she's pregnant, and she's got up one morning, and she's just doing the morning pose, okay? And I need responses from you guys. I'm speaking too long. So brush up in your head the film by Cycle Thief, because you're going to answer a couple of questions, okay? But before that, quickly, I'll go on to the clip. One second. This one has obviously audio. The simple reason because 1940, right? Sound is already invented, so we can hear people now. So the technology obviously took cinema closer to reality, because what happens in real life, you hear people. So now in films also you could hear people. Okay? Is it audible?
Yes.
No.
It's not audible clearly,
Achha. One
but I
second.
don't think so there is any,
There's
apart
any
from
audio?
background music is only there.
Yeah, yeah. There's only background music. That's
Yeah.
audible, right?
Yeah, that's all.
Please carefully look at the shot taking. Um, Okay. So one of you tell me what are the things which you noticed. Anyone? Close-up shots. Okay. Anything else? Palak, it's okay. Even if you don't switch on your camera, speak aloud. Palak, what did you notice?
I noticed that the scene were taken from the close up. Also, they have taken shoulder shots, and even they made us look from her perspective outside the window.
Correct, correct. Okay, let me go one by one. Okay. Anishka, I can see you there. Okay, Anishka, what about, let's go one by one. What about the acting? Let's start with something. What about the acting of this film? Was it exaggerated? Was it anything you felt about the acting of this person? Yes. Palak, Nisha, anyone? Anishka, Ankita, you can see. Sabah, yes. Okay, Palak is there. Yes, Palak, you can
Yeah,
straight on speak. Yes, Palak.
yes. So it is all about most of the scenes were played through expressions only, and there were subtle expression. No exaggerations were there.
Okay.
So
No
most of the
exaggeration.
expressions through, yes,
Very subtle,
facial.
absolutely. Very subtle style of acting. Very good. Meena, what about the lighting or anyone else? I'm just taking random names. Meena, Anishka, Sabah. What do you think about the lighting?
Ma'am, I think that the lighting it was quite, matlab, it was not very dark. There was too much light, and it like if like we associate dark lighting with something like very sad or something depressing has happened, but it was not in this case.
Like, for example, you guys have seen Psycho, right? Or you guys have seen Pulp Fiction. Now, if I start comparing the lighting of these films, do you find what you saw, or what you saw in Bicycle Thief also? Do you find the nature of the lighting a little different, Meena?
Ma'am, as Palak has mentioned, that it was dull on the background, but it was focused on the actress. So I agree with her that since the actress was the main person, so they highlighted her and like the house and everything. She goes into the kitchen and then she looks outside. So I think it represents like different scenarios, different meanings.
Also, just for your information, and if you look closely and later on, also you can do that, is that most of the lighting which is used in Bicycle Thief or in obviously in the sequence which I have shown you is all natural lighting. What do you mean by natural lighting? When the light is coming from your windows, it's a natural light, right? So this is natural light, right? Whereas if I switch on my tube light, it's artificial light, right? So most of the lighting done here was all natural. Okay, very good answer, Meena. Somebody else now, Sarita, Sabah, Anishka. What do you think
Ishika,
about? Yes.
somebody wanted to actually say something. Ishika, Kanika, Batra, they raise their hands.
Okay.
Ishika?
Yes, Ashika.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I wanted to say that I think the way the actor portrayed the emotions was very well done. I mean, she was showing how a normal, poor woman lives and how daily activities is performed by a person who is like very poor and doing everything on her own, small things, and then what is her perspective on life and everything. And I think I also felt a kind of loneliness in her entire background music through the music, and how everything she was doing was alone. Nobody was there to support her. So,
Correct. Ashika, tell me, what about the shot, length of the shot? What was, how long was the shot? Each shot. You know what is a shot, right? A shot is a continuous run of a
yes.
camera. So how long were the shots? They say, say if you compare it with that psycho knife sequence, right? Or when you compare it with the film like Pulp Fiction, right? Weren't the shots very lengthy in duration?
I think it was like appropriate, exact, because ma'am, it was needed to show the amount of loneliness in a life. Like ma'am, वो एक shot था ना when the whole like वो पूरा रास्ता दिखा रहे थे ऐसे, मतलब like the lobby in her house, and she was that shot was very beautifully taken. Like उससे पहले तक सारे shots were close-ups. So
एक बात बताओ इशिका, when you notice this, जैसे मेरा भी है, right? You can, ये तो मेरा, मैं have to switch off the camera, this background thing for a while. अच्छा, for example, ये virtual background की बात करते हैं. So when you see me, ठीक है, and when you see the plant out there, are both in focus or one is in focus, one is in out of focus?
ma'am, according to me,
Focus?
yeah, out of
Both are focus. Everything is visible, no? Clearly.
yes, ma'am, it's
Yes,
really visible.
Correct.
But
हाँ, इशिका,
but
come
I
with the
think the
question.
focus is on you. Yeah.
हाँ, but आप बताओ, the shot you just see, what was there? उसमें भी everything was in focus or something was in focus, something was out of focus?
Ma'am, जो आप lobby वाला कह रहे हो, जो the shot I described,
Correct.
ma'am, I think the background was not very focused. I think the woman even was not very focused in that shot. They just wanted to show the blank lobby, I guess.
Is it?
The
No,
empty
I'm
lobby.
just saying, I'm saying the overall shot, wasn't it that everything was in focus in the film? In the
Okay, so in the film, the entire film, everything was focused. I think.
correct.
Yes,
Very
ma'am.
good.
Even the
That's
small cat was focused for a while.
everything was foreground. Foreground matlab, I am in the foreground, right? This is midground, that's background. In the film Bicycle Thief, everything was in focus. In the film Mumbato D, you always see all the planes are in complete focus, right? And what these filmmakers want to do is that, because they are saying the idea behind neorealist filmmakers was that when you do such a thing, when you keep everything in focus, right, when you don't cut into action, right, when you don't give additional music and so on and so forth, then basically you are leaving it open for the viewer to decide what they want to understand and comprehend by seeing the scene. You are not telling them that, look, this is where you have to see. But my point, Ishika, because say suppose if I just now right now in this scene I am in this focus, this white table is in focus, the yellow chair, just one second. That white, A is in focus and the tree is also in focus, right? But when this is not the case, when I say suppose if I change my background right now, I don't know how to do that. Change background, yes. Now if I do this, what am I doing? I am telling you, look, if my background has a table, a chair, a tree, and all what all not, you do not have to look there. You should only look at me. Isn't it the case? Is it the case or not? Tell me. Ishika, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Focus
So when
on
I'm
people.
doing this, exactly, when I'm doing this, I'm telling you that, look, there might be a lot of things in this frame, but you only have to look at me. Now, when I do this, I become very important. I means filmmaker, because the filmmaker forces you to look at that, look at only the person, right? So this is one of the examples I gave, but the same thing happens with music also. Put some Daravna music right now, what happens? It becomes a horror film. I become a horrific teacher or kind of a, something scary is happening. You put a nice soft violin, now the meaning completely changes. Does it change or it doesn't change? It does change, correct? Vinal, correct? Anika, correct?
yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's correct, right? So you can actually change meaning, yeah, right? By changing a lot of these elements which I am talking about. But a realist filmmaker, so whether it be Bicycle Thief, Umberto D, or in contemporary times, somebody like Dardena brothers, right? You can note down the name, Dardena brothers. I'll share a film with you also for that matter of fact. What they do, and then I'll show you the clip of the film. These set of filmmakers, they believe that all these added interventions from the filmmaker's side. Okay, what are these added intervention? Camera angle can be an added intervention. Again, this is the frame. What is the frame? I'm sitting in front of a computer. I'm teaching a set of students, right? You want to make it horror film? Take the camera and shoot me from a top angle in a bird's eye view, right? You want to make it a horror film? Change the music to a horror music, right? You want to make it a horror film? Change the lighting to a completely red light, right? By doing all of these things, you can change the meaning just like that. But when somebody changes the meaning, it becomes the filmmaker who is trying to change the meaning. And a realist filmmaker will never do that. Will say that I, as a filmmaker, has minimal intervention. So what will I do? I will keep longer shots, right? Just like I showed you. But what will I do? I will use no music, very less music. What will I do? I'll tell the actor, please act very realistically. Do not give any exaggerated expression. What will I do? I will start shooting real location. I will say, no need to build sets. Make people move around in real houses, real streets, and let them do what they want to do. If I do all of this, then what's happening? It's all real life like, right? And therefore, what gets built is a realist film. Is this clear till now? Give me a
Yes,
heads up.
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
can I add
Yes,
something?
ma'am.
Absolutely, yes, please.
Ma'am, I think little props and the dress up or the how the character is dressed also plays a part in understanding the situation and everything.
Absolutely. All of this actually adds on to the meaning, right? Adds on to the meaning. And a realist filmmaker will not want meaning to be added, right? So, for example, montage also. What is a montage? Montage is basically joining two discontinuous shots to create a third meaning. So, very simple. Again, horror film, right? Or whatever you want to create. You have a shot of me, this classroom, okay, one shot. Cut to a lot of children playing in a playground, and then you cut to again back me. Do you think it will create a meaning? Okay, now the same thing, me teaching a group of students, cut to there's a hall which is full of kind of all learned UN people, cut to this classroom. Both the things are different meaning or same meaning?
Ma'am, it will have different meaning.
Exactly, different meaning. But what are you doing by doing all this cutting, right? Is basically you're trying to add meaning. A realist filmmaker will never do that. A realist filmmaker will say, keep the camera where it should be, more straight ahead, right? Don't use too many camera angles. Don't, focus onto one thing onto the frame. Do all of that and make it very, very simple. I'm so sorry. And make it very, very simple, right? And if you do that, you're a realist film. Clear? Clear? Now I'll go on to the other end. Because we have almost, it's 45 minutes. We have spoken about the realist. Now let's speak about the other one. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this is one set of filmmakers. Now the another set of filmmakers, they said, right, and we actually belong to that set of filmmakers. At least me in my college, our students often ask me that, ma'am, you from the beginning when you're teaching us camera, right? What am I teaching to my students? I'm not teaching how to keep the camera at one fixed position, right, in front of the actor. What am I teaching? I'm teaching camera angles, right? Various kind of camera angles. I'm teaching various shot sizes. Now, when you're using various shot sizes, right, various camera angles, what is the idea? To add meaning onto the frame. By changing the camera angle, you add meaning onto the frame. Similarly, when we are teaching sound, we are teaching students sound design, So you're designing the sound, you're adding a sound, and therefore you're trying to recreate a different meaning, add a different meaning onto what you're shooting. So actually we belong to that parameter or that kind of group of filmmakers who are deviating from the realist. And all these people, including us, including all the filmmakers, including the films which you have seen, including Netflix, including OTT. So that's a different language which kind of cinema evolved into, right? Which takes cinema a little further away from reality. And how do you do that? By using the elements of mise-en-scène. And now I come to the term mise-en-scène. And there's a small presentation, but we mostly talk. This is just visually will be a break. Just 1 second. Yes. To avoid mirroring, don't share your entire screen. Okay, I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we can. We can.
So there's a thing called mise-en-scène. Yeah. Change it from here. Yeah. Okay. Mise-en-scène. Now, what is mise-en-scène? Yeah. So mise-en-scène is basically a French term. Okay. And the idea, I wish I could change my. Shweta, can you do me one favor? Or anyone actually? I think one of the students.
Sure.
Yeah. Ishita, one of the students can volunteer. Anyone? What I'll do is I'll share this presentation in the chat box. It's a very small presentation. You can quickly download it. And as and when I say, can you change the PPT? Otherwise, I have to move away from here and do it from somewhere else. I'll just share it in the chat box quickly.
Okay, Ipsita has just raised.
Thank you, Ishita. So, how do I do this? Chat box. Oh, I can't attach anything in the chat box. No. Okay, I'll just share the link. One second. Yes, done. Ishita, if you can just download it from there and just keep changing the clips. Okay, so mise-en-scène is this, and then I'll make you a presenter, or Shweta can make Ishita a presenter so that she can start presenting from her screen. Thank you.
Yes, she can present.
Thank you. Yes, it's already done. Great. Okay. Change slide, Ishita. Yes. So what is mise-en-scène is basically all the elements which we spoke about. We said that realist filmmaker wanted to shoot the reality as it is. Yet this another set of filmmaker which we are talking about right now wanted to use all the elements available to them, right? And add their meaning, there in the sense the filmmakers, the meaning which the filmmaker wanted to inscribe, wanted to put it in the frame, right? All of these elements together are called mise-en-scène. So what these elements can be, right? So I'm showing you one frame in the PPT, but forget about that frame. Look at this frame. What is this frame? This frame is a woman who is teaching, who is in front of you, right? Now I want to add meaning onto this frame, which we are seeing right now. How do you add meaning? We just spoke about it. 2 minutes back. You add meaning or you change meaning by changing the music. Horror music, remember? Change the meaning automatically. Put light violin, the meaning changes automatically. So you change meaning just like that by changing the music. Change the lighting of this room, right? So this is natural light, flooded light which is coming from the window. Change it to red, meaning changes, right? So there is a bunch of elements actually which can be used by a filmmaker to add meaning onto this frame, which is basically you shoot with a realist framework, or basically with the frame itself. So you add meaning onto the frame. Go to the next slide. So you just saw a particular frame, right? What do you learn about Alma as a character here, right? The town and the shop just from this picture. So if we just look at one frame itself, there's a set of meaning which comes out from that frame, right? And therefore you can change this meaning by just fiddling with or changing or using these elements which we are talking about collectively, basically known as mise-en-scène. Go to the next slide. A lot many slides, so we just quickly go through it. What is a mise-en-scène? Now this is bookish knowledge, no need to write it down. I'll send you this PPT, you can note it down later. Mise-en-scène is a French phrase that means placing on stage. It is used to describe the design aspect of it, right? Now, this word is very important, design, because the moment you're moving away from reality, you're actually designing, right? So the idea is to design the film, design the frame or design the film. So you can design this frame which we are looking at right now. You can design the frame by changing the camera angle, by changing the lighting, by changing the audio. You can design the frame. And if you do design your frame, then basically you are using the elements of mise-en-scène. So that's basically mise-en-scène is all about. The books, the dictionary definition, you can just find anything. Okay, go on to the next slide. Yes, in film studies, we need to be able to analyze what we see, right? By describing that what we can see is accurate in intelligent language. We also need to explain what it means and what it is trying to communicate to the audience. Forget about all the words which you just read. Just focus on the last sentence. Communicate to the audience, right? So this PPT itself is made from the point of view of a not realist filmmaker. Because if I would have been a realist filmmaker or a teacher, or if I would have come from that thought process, say something like Andre Baza, the film scholar, who's one of a very famous realist film scholar, I would have said the idea of a film is to basically communicate the real. I basically just shoot what is there in front of you. Whereas, since I belong to the other end, I will say, no. The idea of the film is to communicate to the audience what I, the author, the filmmaker, want to communicate. Go on to the next slide. So what is mise-en-scène is comprised of? Obviously, a series of elements which we just spoke. Just 1 second, I have a gulp of water. So what are these elements which you can do, which you can use to design your frame? You can change the setting and the props, right? When you're reading this, think in terms of this frame, me sitting in front of you, right? And how the meaning changes. I'll show you with one quick example how the meaning changes, because it's there in your Google, it's there in your Google platform only. Okay? Okay. This is one meaning, correct? Looks very like I'm a professor. There's a nice bookshelf in my background. So it gives one set of meaning to this frame. Okay. Now, right? Is it the same meaning? Or for example, this, is it the same meaning? Now, actually, if you just see the frame itself, right? I don't know if you can see me. If you just see the frame itself, forget about what I'm speaking. If I just show two people two frames and I say, Acha, think about what are the two meanings of these two frames. You will say one is a senior professor who's talking to a group of college students, and the other one might be kind of kindergarten teacher who is talking to a bunch of young students, right? But what did I do? Did I change myself? No. Did I change it? I just changed my background and the meaning changed. So what are you fiddling with? Mise en scène, right? Mise en scène changed the meaning altogether of the film. Let me come back to the original self. Yes. So let me quickly open this window. It's giving very nice light. Yes. Yes, much better. So, sorry. Yeah. So coming to what I was saying, that this was just a live example, but otherwise setting and props, costume, hair, makeup, lighting, color of the frame, positioning of the object, right, and people, camera angles, facial expression, body language, right, all of this, I think camera I missed, I'm so sorry. All of this together actually will, you can add meaning onto the frame by just fiddling around with all of this. Can you go to the next slide, please? Right? Okay, just read through. I've already spoken about it. What is setting and props? Where the film takes place, right? Prop is a new term, might be for all of you. It's the objects which are there in the film. Right now, I've given you one example. What is a prop here I'm using in this frame? The bookshelf, right? Which makes this frame looks a little serious, makes me look serious. What is the other prop which I was using in the previous frame? All kids' toys and all, right? Both different props, different meaning, right? Costume. I am right now wearing a salwar kurta, one set of meaning. I'm taking this class, it's one set of meaning. I can wear all corporate clothes, different meaning altogether, right? You will kind of, when you don't know me, that is, I'm just a mere character, you will understand me in different, yes, absolutely, you're correct. Music is very much a part of mise en scène, but I didn't mention it. Basically, you understand all of these points together are all part of mise en scène. So props, yes, you change the props, you change meaning. Costume, hair, makeup, we've already discussed. Lighting, make it all red, different meaning altogether. Color, that is the tonal quality of the scene. Positioning of the object, facial expression, music, anything and everything you can use to design your frame is basically mise en scène. I think this is the best and easiest way to understand what is mise en scène. Go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, I think they've understood. Next slide. Yes, next slide. Yeah. Next slide. I think they'll just, yeah. Next slide. Facial expression actor. So now, one by one, the slides basically explain. This is very explanatory slides. You can use it later on when, if you're trying to learn what is mise en scène. But I generally prefer to talk and see something. And so what we will do right now is, instead of, okay, we can quickly go through. Number one, setting and props. The next one. Okay. Instead of going it one by one, what I will do is, we'll see a small clip of a film, and then we will kind of try and go through all of these points one by one and see how meaning was ascribed with the aid of all of these things which are seen. So which film did we choose? We already saw Realist, so I'm not going back to Rosetta. See, you can ask me that, ma'am, do you think that in There is no way a mise-en-scène or elements of mise-en-scène are used in a realist film. So Bicycle Thief doesn't use any elements of mise-en-scène. I will say it does. It does, because Bicycle Thief does have a musical piece, right? It does have a close-up at the end when, if you've seen the film, when Bruno is kind of looking at that the father is stealing, so we cut to a close-up of Bruno, right? So it does use, but a realist film will make minimal use of these elements, right? Minimal use of these elements. So it will not cut into that action too many times. It will, the setting will be realistic. It will be real location most of the time, right? So that it's basically the nature of a realist film. Whereas the non-realist film, and I'm using a term now for the same, formalist, okay? Formalist film. Why formalist? Formalist, if you divide the term, it's form, F-O-R-M, right? Form, what do you mean by a form? How do I explain this? Okay, so this chair, it's not a wooden chair, but the content of the chair is wood, okay? But this chair can be made in different ways. Like, for example, if this is an office chair, this is one kind. It can be a bar stool, it can be a kitchen stool. So what am I changing? I'm changing the shape and the size, right? Or in other words, I'm changing the form of the chair. Okay, so this form, right, what structurally it looks like. Okay, so when you pay emphasis onto the form, it becomes formalist. So how do you pay emphasis to the form? By using the elements of mise-en-scène, by designing it. So you're trying to design the chair in different manner. Once you're making a bar stool, once you're making an office chair, once you're making some other chair, you're trying to design this chair, right? And that's what, how do you design this in cinema? Chair तो in reality तो पिट के हम लोग तैयार कर देंगे. But what will you do it in cinema? How do you design? You design by using all the design elements you have in your hand. Okay, I think it's clear. Okay, so let's see then Avatar. Let's see a first clip of Avatar, and then we can follow it through. One second.
Ma'am, shall I stop sharing?
Sorry, just got hanging for a second. Again, try. Ipsita, do you have Avatar in your folder? I'm not sure why this is just not playing. Okay, let's see the. Do you have one, Ipsita? Who was handling my presentation? Okay, let's watch it directly from my.
Shall I present it? I have it.
You have it. Just
Yeah.
now. One second. Let me try once more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. It's playing. How do I share screen? Okay. Can you see the Can you see the window?
Yes, we can see you.
Let me know if you can't. to see the hear the sound. Okay. Actually,
Play,
we
play.
will go on from the very beginning.
Okay. Sound is not audible.
ठीक है, it's okay. Even if it's not audible, just focus on.
Ma'am, I can present from YouTube if you want.
Is it there in YouTube?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys have seen the film also, right? So,
Yes, ma'am.
Let's get straight up front. Doing what you do. What's the idea? Doing your own plan. Strong, trying to break. Just lay things up. Nobody doesn't take his thing.
yeah. Are you still being able to hear the audio?
Yes,
No,
now we
ma'am.
can.
Oh, how do I stop
But it
here?
breaks in between, yeah.
Okay, I think it's better somebody else presents it because otherwise I can speak and all. Who was doing it for me? Somebody said volunteer. You can just press.
Ma'am, it's there in Hindi on YouTube.
Yeah, if you can just play it from your end, it's getting handy.
Sure, ma'am.
I'm trying to play this one.
Sure, ma'am, I'll do it.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Yeah, so the idea of showing you to you, and obviously we will kind of run it once more. That what, like in terms of setting, okay, let's first talk about setting and props. And then we can talk about the other things. In terms of setting, right from what you see, what do you comprehend from this? Anyone? We can just see the, even if, forget about the whole film, even if we see just the trailer of the film, right, which is very easy to play from YouTube. Can that be done, Ishita? Just play the trailer. I think it will be in better quality also, so that will work better. Let's work it out with trailers. Okay. Now you've seen a trailer of a film called Avatar. Okay, I hope it will be in better quality. Okay. Now you'll tell me that what do you comprehend about the setting of the film? Okay. Hope you can hear the sound. Okay. If not, Ishita, by presenting, you will have to just play a tab. That works. It's perils of the digital world cannot be avoided. Thank you so much. But I would like you to play one more trailer for me, okay? Which is the Psycho trailer. Ishita, yes. Yeah, the 1960.
हेलो चलो
So it's unavoidable.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies.
Isn't this the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world?
I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out.
Is anyone at home?
Oh, that must be my mother.
Is anything wrong?
Am I
acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down.
Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from?
She looked like a wrong one to you?
It's not as if she were a maniac. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
Thank you. If anyone in this class hasn't seen the film Psycho, it's a crime. Okay, so please do watch, all of you, right? I'm sure you'll become a Hitchcock fan, and then you can start watching the Hitchcock series once you are in love with him, right? So that's how you should watch films. Pick up a director and then watch the entire set. So pick up the Tarantino, pick up any of the, you can take these names, so greatest filmmakers, and then just watch their entire series. You will love it. Okay, so now we have seen two of the, and can we come back to the presentation? Ishita, thank you for helping me out. Yeah, so number one is setting. Okay, now forget about this particular frame. What would you, now you just seen two different settings, okay, of two films. One of you will tell me what do you realize or observe from these settings, and what did you comprehend, particularly from students who haven't seen these films. What did you comprehend? Okay, Shika, yes, go ahead.
मैम आई थिंक जो अवतार मूवी है उसमें बहुत ज्यादा मतलब कुछ भी रियलिस्टिक नहीं है, बहुत ज्यादा सेट्स क्रिएट की हुई है टू यू नो टू मेक देम लाइक जो भी वो है मीनिंग एंड जो मूवी है
इशिका मैं इंटरप्ट कर रही हूँ आपको. हाँ, इशिका मैं थोड़ा सा इंटरप्ट कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं आपसे ही आंसर चाहती हूँ थोड़ा सा अलग. वो ये है कि रियलिस्ट तो दोनों में से कोई नहीं है, ठीक है. एविटार रियलिस्ट नहीं है, वो तो सही बात है क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली इट्स आल्सो हाइपर रियल, तो मतलब काइंड ऑफ इट्स एनिमेटेड एंड देयर आर अदर टर्म्स व्हिच आर यूज्ड फॉर इट. बट साइको इज आल्सो नॉट रियलिस्टिक. कैसे रियलिस्टिक है? वो जो शावर सीक्वेंस है, इफ यू हैव सीन दैट सीक्वेंस, उसमें क्या होता है, उसमें यूज जो म्यूजिक यूज होता है, वो नंबर ऑफ कट्स 72 कट्स देते हैं, वो सब मिला के तो उसको रियलिस्ट तो नहीं बोल सकेंगे. रियलिस्ट होता वही सेम फ्रेम को अगर रियलिस्ट शूट करना होता तो क्या करते हैं हम लोग? देन वी वुड हैव जस्ट केप्ट द कैमरा वन प्लेस, राइट, एंड you know one man would have come and killed the woman and he would have shot like that without that dramatic music, without that dramatic camera angles and all of that. So realist तो दोनों में से कोई नहीं है. But so forget about the realist. I'm not showing you realist films. But even in these two so-called quote-unquote non-realist trends which we are following, what would you comprehend from these two different settings? Coming back to you, Shika. Yes.
Ma'am, like the different okay, so we can talk about then the different props used, the different music used, the lighting, how the lighting has been used, the costumes of this. So if we talk about all of, I think the meaning entirely changes because that becomes a horror film and that becomes a very different film altogether. So I think that we can also comprehend from that.
So don't you think, Ishika, that the setting itself, or kuch bhi nahi, though this much it made us understand that one is a science fiction and one is a horror film. This was clear, no, with the setting, music, everything, the setting itself, right? So this is what is mise-en-scène, right? One of the elements of mise-en-scène. By changing the setting of the film, you can define the genre of the film. Okay, so this is how setting, and this is not just true for Avatar or Psycho. You watch any film, the setting contributes to the meaning of the film. Okay, go on to the next slide. Next slide. Like for example, this frame I have chosen, right? It shows a big castle, right? Immediately it gives a sense that this might be a sort of, though this is, it's taken from a random film, random shot. So what is it, the idea it gives you? Anyone else? Bhavna or Meena? What do you think the film is about? Is it a science fiction film? Does it look like a science fiction film? We don't know for sure. We haven't seen numerous, but just this frame, just this setting, does it tell anything about the film? Palace, institution, okay, very good.
Historical.
Sorry?
From historical.
Story film, okay, horror, right, correct. But this will not be a science fiction. I mean, at least this frame is not giving us an impression that it's a science fiction or it's a horror film, but something related to a palace, right? So these information which I'm gathering, right? This information I'm not gathering because of I know the characters in the film, neither do I know the lighting or whatever. Just by this one setting of the film, I'm kind of interpreting so much about the film, the frame, or whatever, what it belongs to. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Right. Just go to the next slide. Right. Now this is another shot. Okay. Very different frame. Now let's not use the word shot because shot should be a continuous run of a camera. This is a frame, one individual frame. Right. Now, don't you think that when I see this and when I go back to the previous slide, just go back to the previous slide, don't you think that there's a human figure there also? These two people might be very different kind of people. Correct. Ishika, correct. Palak, correct. Yes, absolutely. Now, okay, you can move forward. So, the setting gives a different idea about a person. And I think the best example I've just shown you with my example only. The bookshelf and the kids one, right? So, the setting changed, the meaning changed. Okay, go to the next scene. Next. You can just change slides up to you. Yeah, you got the point, Ishita. What? Next, again, see, look at these frames. Each frame kind of gives a different meaning altogether. Okay, different idea about the film. So setting and props, yes, next one. Yeah. So setting and props will actually give you these four ideas, right? So forget about everything else. Just think about this frame. Where is this scene taking place? Okay, right now it gives you an idea this might be taking place this doesn't give a setup of a classroom, right? So it's either my home or some sort of professional setup. What props can we see? What do we learn about the situation, right? What is the shot telling us about the scene? So just by the setting and the props which are, like look at the props which are used in Avatar. Very different from the kind of props which are used in a film like Psycho, right? So because they add meaning. Next. Okay. Next is costume, hair, makeup, right? How are people dressed? Do people have makeup on? Now you see at Avatar, right? It immediately the costume, hair, makeup tells you that it's a science fiction. Does the Psycho makeup and costume also gives you the same impression? No, right? What does the clothing of everyone suggest about the situation of the scene? What is that everyone is dressed in the same style? So basically, moral of the story is that just by changing the costume, I gave you an example. You make me wear corporate clothes, right? You make me wear a nice colorful red sari, the meaning immediately changes, right? Hair, makeup, you can define meaning onto the frame. Okay, next one. Lighting and color, okay, very important. Lighting actually brings in a lot of information. We think that lighting may carry, just open the windows and light will come in and you will shoot. But lighting actually defines a lot. So for example, I am just showing you quickly. No, what is the name I have right now? Then it's coming to them. Um, anyways, so for example, you take the example of the film Noah Lighting. Okay, so for example, a lighting like this, I'm just sharing my screen with you. Can you see my frame? Ishita, is that visible?
Yes, yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
ma'am.
Now you can see here, this is what is basically different film lighting which I use. Oh, what happened to this? Now is it visible?
Yes, yes, it is.
Now if you see, if you look at the kind of lighting which is there, say a frame like this, right? Sorry. Okay. Is it audible also? Is it visible now?
It is visible.
All of you?
We can't hear it, but till now.
No. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you see these frames, right? These are all film frames. Now, natural lighting is what? Where the lighting is very real life light. But when you have lighting of this sort, right? Can you see this frame, please? Please give me a heads up. I can't see you guys.
Yes, you can.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yes, great. Or a frame like this, right? Or a frame like this. Here, don't you think lighting adds on to the meaning? This is not color. Color is when you change the color to red, green, blue. Obviously, it does change the meaning. But when you don't change the color of the scene, the tonal quality of the scene, but yet you kind of change the lighting scheme of the film, right? Look at this frame. Okay, this is also color and light. When you kind of, don't you think that you can design the color scheme of the film as well? Can you do that or you don't? If you're a good
Definitely, ma'am.
filmmaker, right, correct. If you're a good filmmaker and you do not belong to the realist camp, right, what is the role of a person called art director? There's actually a person, cinematographer, right? Cinematographer and director of photography are same people. What is the role of the cinematographer? Just to light up, just to ensure that there is light in the room. No, that's a very simple thing the director himself could do. You don't need a separate cinematographer for that. The role of the cinematographer is actually basically to design the light scheme. So he takes up each scene, he takes up each setting, and he thinks that what could be the design of the light, right? So whether it should be something of this sort, like what I'm presenting right now, or whether it be whether it should be something like this, you know. So what should be the, and he actually has drawings like this. If you see, I don't know if you can see, he actually, you know, makes, that is the cinematographer or the director of the photography, actually makes drawing of this sort, right? Deciding that for each and every frame where the lights will be placed, and therefore what kind of lighting will be recreated. And that's an arduous job. There are softwares for that, right? For this kind of drawing. So he will actually plan, the director of photography. Yes, even theater artists do that. You're absolutely correct. So a cinematographer also exists in a theater play, right? Somebody, before the play, somebody who's actually responsible for lights will sketch out that for each and every scene where the lights will be placed and what will be the ultimate effect of those placement. And therefore, what are you trying to do? You're trying to design. Why are you doing this? Simple natural light would have been enough. Bicycle thief uses all natural light, realist camp. But the idea here is that the author wants to ascribe meaning by the lighting. Okay, so this is one kind of light right now. This is evenly lit, both sides of my face. What about suddenly, one side of my face is completely dark, right? And I'm just sitting like this. Obviously, I'll add a little expression. And one half of my face is completely dark. So this is side light. Side light is when one side is completely dark and when one side is lit. Then what happens? What is it the same meaning or is it different meaning? You will have different impression about me altogether, right? When I will change the lighting scheme of this room. I personally did that, I opened the year because this makes me more friendly, right? The more lights I have, you will, teachers also, we all do that, whoever is in this, it's kind of clear. When you kind of have all lit up room, right? It's bright, it's nice, right? To look at. It gives you a fresh feeling. Whereas if I make very dim lighting to this room right now, right? That kind of gives a different impression about this lecture. So lighting actually plays a role in ascribing meaning onto the frame. Go back to the presentation. Ishita? I'll stop presenting. Yes. Yes. Okay. And now go down. Yes, I think I've covered lighting, positioning of objects and people. Okay. Where are people standing? Is anyone in the place that really stands out? Who is the most important person in the scene? Okay. I'll give you one small example to explain this. Okay. Positioning of the object means also means that here we're talking about how to position the camera. Whenever Amitabh Bachchan enters the frame, do you remember where the camera is placed?
Ma'am, on his
On his feet. Okay, there's a reason onto it because the moment you have a camera which is from a low angle position, right, and the person is standing there, it kind of gives you an idea that the person is larger than life, right? Is from a different position altogether. So just by changing the positioning of the camera, I kind of immediately change the meaning. Okay, next time remember when you want to show an authoritative figure, right? Always place a low angle camera because it will add on to that meaning onto that image. Right, so that's kind of positioning onto the object. Also, if you see Bachchan films, you will see that it's not that nobody is of the same height as Bachchan, right? But it was a carefully crafted thing that the people who are, in front of, say, if you watch Coolie, the other Coolies, and so on and so forth, they're always in height less than Amitabh Bachchan. So it was, we think that, okay, all of this might just randomly, अच्छा वैसे artist मिले होंगे, right? ऐसा नहीं है. Everything is a well thought out, crafted thing. Because look at, the Bachchan figure in those films. Right now, it's a different set of films he kind of does. But at that point of time, he needed to be a very powerful figure in those films, very prominent. He's the working class leader in those films. So therefore, it needs to be established. How was it established? Low angle camera, right? Rest of the actors were always lesser in height than him. So all of this was crafted to give him that stature. It was not just randomly that kind of happened. So positioning of the object, positioning of the people. I just spoke about height, but the placement, how you place people in a scene, right? Whom do you place in foreground? Whom do you place in background? That's also very important. Okay, next one. Facial expression, body language, absolutely, right? There are two people who are giving you, there's one person. I mean, you can actually tell a lot of things about the person by the way that person dresses, the person speaks. And obviously, in a film, you are making that person speak. Here, though I am real life, I'm speaking whatever it's coming to me. So you can judge me as a human being, right? But if I'm acting, then the director is telling me that you speak in this authoritative, position. Or you speak like, hello students, what are you doing today, right? So which tonality I will speak in, that is my director will tell me, right? Correct. Correct. Maybe we can go into the last slides now. Done. Correct. Okay, done. You can later on have a look at the detailed PPT slides, because all of them are eventually talking about the same thing. Okay, so we will end this by again seeing a small clip from Psycho, because it's very easy. Okay, that's done. Yeah, get it. Okay. Now, which are the films you've seen? Psycho, you've seen, Pulp Fiction, and
Bicycle Thief, Minari.
Correct. Let's watch a small the Psycho shower sequence. And I would want to see you. Wait, Psycho shower sequence, and then we just see a small. Just one second.
But let me tell you how Grammarly business.
Okay, look at it carefully. We'll play a small game associated to this clip. Okay, so look at it. I hope I've muted the audio. You can hear me, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, correct. Now, when you saw this clip, and I have noted down a few things right now, we'll talk about them one by one. Number one is camera angles. You saw the camera angles, right? Okay. Do you think it's designed or not? One simple question. Was it designed or was it not designed?
Designed.
Very much designed, right? And who's the person responsible for designing these shots, camera angles? The director and the assistant director, right? So the director and the assistant director actually sits down, takes up a scene, and then thinks about that, and then divides it into shots. You understand shots, I hope. Every country knows turn of the camera. And every shot, then they decide where the camera will be placed. Why? Because the way you design this, right, will ascribe meaning. So this was basically a sort of this sequence needed to create that impact of fear. In fact, this is one of the most well-known sequences in the history of cinema, which recreates fear, right? It's a murder sequence, the most famous murder sequence. Now, in order to recreate this, they needed to design that for each and every shot, how the camera angle will happen. Now, think about, I know it's very difficult, but I mean, this would have been a very interesting filmmaking language exercise. Instead of having these camera angles in different manner, like for example, if you look at the camera angles are, this is a frontal camera angle, then low angle, we only see the legs, top angle. So we see how fast cutting is also happening. We are coming to the cutting. No, right? It never would have had the same impact. So camera angles lock किया जाए, and the second one क्या lock किया जाए? The shot sizes. So the shot sizes were designed as per the need of the sequence. Okay, so camera angle, shot size, both ho gaya. Now music, you are right now hearing it without music you're seeing. Is it creating the same impact? Never, right? In fact, that musical piece is the most well-known piece in the history, right? Many people have it as ringtones because it kind of obviously it gives a different momentum to the scene. It adds on to that fear. Look at the camera and this camera angle, right? Obviously, and then how it dissolves to the eyes. This creates the fear, this creates the horror. And therefore, if we say that it does not add anything onto that image, it is not designed, it'd be very wrong, right? If this would have been all frontal, Lumiere brothers, remember, workers coming out of the factory. Think about the camera being placed like that and everything happening in front of it, right? With all one camera shot, one long shot. Now let's talk about the pacing. Do you again? I'm again playing the scene number of times. Look at the pacing of the scene. I just have water. Slow, right? Everything is slow. Everything is calm, peaceful. Then this woman goes to the shower. Still, everything is in. The shots are of longer duration, right? Longer duration. You can time it. How many seconds each shot? And they see slowly what is happening. The duration of individual shot is reducing, right? Slowly. And lastly, when that murder happens, okay, 1, 2, I'll do that for you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Peaceful. 11, 12, 13, 14. Longer shots. 1, 2. Okay. Again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Now it's slowly reducing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Very long. It's coming. 14, 15. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Are you getting what I'm trying to hint at? So the pace kind of, sorry, I forgot to switch on my camera. Good, you could focus there. So the pace kind of is up and down, up and down, up and down. So this is also a matter of design, okay? And so is costume, makeup, and all of that, right? Props, the shower curtain, very important prop, right? The prop being used, she'll now pull the curtains. The prop being used to create that element of fear. Okay, so together, I think we'll end it after this. Yes. Right. Correct. The fear being recreated by the use of the elements of mise. Now, I'm done. I spoke a lot. Other questions from you again. Yes, Pala?
Ma'am, I have a question. So, ma'am, director writes all these scenes where to be placed, whatever it is.
He has a team called assistant directors. A Bollywood film will have at least 7 to 8 ADs, assistant directors, even more numbers. So everybody together sits down. But obviously, it's not just he decides with his team. It's also the input of the camera person, because it's also the input of the cinematographer. Cinematographer is deciding the lighting scheme. The cameraman is deciding the camera angle. So it's a joint decision. It's a design is created by everyone together.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, Ashrita?
Ma'am, is it that misanthropy is inevitable to every form of film, right?
Once again?
Ma'am, misanthropy is inevitable for every sort of film, right?
Yes, it's inevitable, but you can, as I said right in the beginning, there are certain films which are referred as. You can mute your audio.
Ma'am, it's from someone else's end, I think.
Maybe others can do it. Oh, it's mine only. Sorry. No, it was mine that thing was playing. Yeah, it's inevitable, but as I said in the beginning, there are certain films which belong to the realist camp, with realist filmmakers, and they try and make minimal use of the elements of mise-en-scène. If you ask me, ma'am, can you do away with it? Go back to Lumiere Brothers and shoot like him. You can do away with it. Yes.
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Ma'am, even that first film, like the Brothers Wala movie, it also has like costumes and things like that. So, ma'am, still it's there, no?
Hey, Lumiere brothers were shooting all actualities, no? They were not actors only. They were
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
no actors. They were all
Understood.
wearing, yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
their
Understood.
own clothes. Yes. Any other question?
Any other question you have? Any other thought in your mind that you would like to ask or share? All clear means all clear,
2 hours to make them listen.
huh? Anything else anybody has to share? All clear. Yes, it is.
It was lovely interacting with you students.
Yeah, it was lovely hearing you actually.
Thank you so much.
So glad, so thankful. So can we just call it a close now then?
Yeah.
So thank you. Yes, a big thank you to you, Dr. Barat. Thank you so much for actually coming and actually sharing your expertise on this. And we are actually enlightened. This is such a, in a very simple way, you've been able to actually make us understand that how beautifully we have actually traveled from realistic to formalistic by the usage of mise-en-scène. And, it's so nice and so easy to actually, grab. So that's the beauty of it. So we did not even realize that we have passed 2 hours actually. So at least I. So I'm very, very thankful to you, and I hope that we can have more interactions in further future also.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone. Thank you all for listening patiently. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
so
Bye,
much, ma'am.
bye.
Thank you, ma'am.